Discrimination, Higher Education Minister Nzimande is digging in his heels, insisting that Afrikaans is not an indigenous language. This despite the Constitutional Court ruling that UNISA reinstate the language in its teaching and learning. Danie van Wyk of the DAK Network, which aims to empower disadvantaged Afrikaans speakers, joins me now. Danie, thank you so much for your time. Scientifically, by definition, Afrikaans, is it an indigenous language or not, according to you?
Afrikaans is an indigenous language, Takfuma. There's no doubt about it. This language originated here in the Cape. It was established, it was by the slaves who came from different parts in the world, from Asia, from Africa, and for them to be able to communicate with one another, they started this language, which later became Afrikaans. And this is the only language, one can say, which actually bears the name of the continent Afrikaans. Afrikaans is an indigenous language, as is the kokerboom, as is the protea flower, as is the fynbos. So there's no doubt about it that Afrikaans is an indigenous language. We do not know what formula or which formula the minister and his advisors used to come to a decision that Afrikaans is not or an indigenous language. We would really like to know that, but we don't know at this stage. There is no doubt that the language of myself and 60% plus colored people in this country is an indigenous language, Takfuma.
Danie, Afrikaans has, let me say, a black history that is not necessarily well known. There's the apartheid history, which is well documented, but the black history, maybe not so much. I'm going to give you a tough task. In about a minute and a half, just outline the black history, if you like, of Afrikaans.
All I can say is that Afrikaans has been politicized and has been stigmatized by the apartheid regime. Afrikaans is the language which belongs to the people. It is part of your identity. It is part of your culture. To deny this right is an infringement to the rights of my constitutional rights as well as my human rights. Afrikaans is the language which should be recognized as an indigenous language because it has been there for many, many years. And to decide now, all of a sudden, not or to sidetrack or to sideline the language is really a travesty to the injustices being done to our people.
Danie, so give me a little bit of the history, of the genesis of the language, so that people understand that it is more than what it's been labeled as the oppressor's language.
Takfuma, Afrikaans, just to give you an example, when the slaves came to the Western Cape, or to the Cape Colony at that stage, there was no such language as the Afrikaans language. They came from different parts, as I said. And the Afrikaans language originated from them. The first book in Afrikaans was written in the Cape. It was the Quran, which was translated to the then Afrikaans by the slaves. It has a very rich history. It started way back before Van Riebeeck came to the Cape, when Bartholomeus Diaz and other people or colonists from different parts of Europe came to the Cape, and they interacted with the indigenous people, and that is why words that originated here was words like brood, which is Afrikaans for bread. I can take another example. Words like baie comes from Malaysia. It was brought here by the slaves. So you have this interaction between slaves and, of course, the colonists, and that is how the language was established and how it was originated, Takfuma.
What is the reality of Afrikaans right now? Who's speaking Afrikaans, and how is it moving forward as a mode of communication?
Afrikaans is spoken, like I said, by 60% plus people in the Western Cape. It is their home, it's their mother tongue, it is their home language, it's the language in which they study at school, and of course partly now at the University of Stellenbosch. So we as the colored people have we have taken this language and we've We have taken it as our own. We've owned this language because it's not a language which belongs to the Afrikaner or to the white people. Because that was the image that was created around the language, that it was the language of the oppressor. It was abused by the oppressor. It was abused by the apartheid regime. But whilst in the meanwhile, while people were protesting against Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in the north, in Soweto, we here in the Western Cape, we protested against apartheid in Afrikaans. So we see Afrikaans as a language of participating and contributing towards our freedom in our country. It's a very strong language. It's a highly developed academic language, and that is something that cannot be denied. That Afrikaans is a South African asset, and it should be recognized as such.
How do you undo the fact that it was used as a tool during the apartheid government? How do you take back the narrative?
Well, the DAK Network, as you might know, is an organization that was started to reinstate, sort of, make people more aware of their identity. It was derived from the names of three Khoi leaders in the Cape, Duaman, Achumau, and Kretua. And for us, it is part of our identity. And if you reject your language, then you are rejecting indirectly your identity. And if you have accepted your identity, you have accepted your language which you speak on a daily basis, then of course you would be able to know who you are, and would you be able to make people understand, and they have to accept that here I'm an Afrikaans speaking colored person, and I want to contribute towards making South Africa the country it should be.
Danie, thank you so much for your time and for that very short history lesson. Danie van Wyk of the DAK Network, which is fighting for the history of Afrikaans.